95% of apps are abandoned in just 90 days if push notifications aren't enabled. If you don't want to be on the receiving end, here's what you need to do. Now, in order to enable push notification for my Android app, I'm going to use iZooto. Now, this has been my choice for both web and app notifications, and here are the steps that you need to follow to do the same. The first step, I would need you to go to iZooto's panel and log in there. Once you're there, let's set up a new project. So you can click add a new project. Now, since we're doing this for an Android app, we'll select Android and put in the project name based on the name of your app. Now, in the next step, it'll ask you for the URL. So you'll need to put in the URL from the Google Play Store, since this is for the Android app. Now, in case your app is not already live on the Play Store, you do have the option to check that it's still under development. So you can check that, and then you won't need to put in that URL. Hit continue, and a new project would be created in iZooto. Now, once this is done, we will need the FCM credentials. So earlier it would require a sender ID and a server key, but now Firebase for the longest time is asking for a JSON file. So to get that, you'll need to first head over to Firebase. So if you haven't created a project on Firebase, you can create a project there and put in the name of your SDK. Let's go ahead. You can set up analytics as well. Now that the Firebase project is set up, let's go ahead and add Firebase to the Android app. Now, if you already have the project set up, you can follow these steps. Now, in the Android app, you need to go to main activity and copy the package name, paste it in Firebase. Once the package name is selected, you can add a nickname. Now, this is optional. You can skip that as well. I'm going to go and add one anyway. Now that this is done, you'll have to download the Google Services JSON file. Now, this is a config file that you'll need to add. So go ahead, download it. Go to your Android project. Go over to app, and right in the app folder, you'll have to paste this JSON file. Now, the next step is to add the plugin as a dependency to your project level build Gradle. So you can simply copy the code, the first one, go back to your Android Studio, go to build Gradle and paste the code right under plugins. Once that is done, head over back to the Firebase console. You'll need to add the Google Services plugin as well. So you copy the code again, go to the build Gradle, which is the module app, paste it there. Next code, you need to paste it under dependencies. So you can simply copy the code. There are two different lines of code, so you need to paste it under dependencies towards the bottom of the code. And once you're done, you can hit next. Now that this thing is done, you'll need to go to your project settings and click on service accounts. Now you'll need to generate a new private key. This is what will be required to be added to the iZooto panel. So you'll go ahead, download a new key. Once that is done, go back to the iZooto panel now, and you'll need to upload the JSON file, the private key that you've just downloaded, right here. Once you've successfully uploaded that file, next step would be to set up the iZooto SDK for the app framework. Now, depending on Android or iOS app, this will differ. Now, since we've picked Android as an option, here are the steps for it. Now, in order to add the iZooto dependencies, you'll need to go to the support document, the first link that's there for the Android app. You can click on that. If you are doing it for iOS, you'll need to click the Flutter integration documentation. You simply can go ahead and copy the code for dependencies, go back to Android Studio, and you need to add this as a line, the default config for the build Gradle. Here you'll need to replace the app ID placeholder that's there with the app ID code that is generated. This is unique to each app. So you can go ahead and change the iZooto app ID. Now this is something you'll get from the iZooto panel. Once you've done that, you'll need to paste a few more lines of code in the dependencies section. Simply copy the code for dependencies. We go back to the build Gradle. Under dependencies, we add the code. In case you get a pop-up saying that the Gradle project is not in sync, you can go ahead and hit the sync button. There are more codes that need to be copied for dependencies. You copy the code and add them to this section again. And again, go ahead and sync the code. Now the third step is to make changes to the XML file, which is the Android manifest XML. From the support document, you can copy that and go to manifest, Android manifest.xml in the Android Studio. And simply copy the code and paste it under manifest. You need to paste it in the following line. Now both of these codes, in the documentation, you'll see an explanation of what each line of code does. And under main activity, you need to add a few more lines of code. You paste the code right at the top. The final line of code towards the end of the main activity code. Once you're done, you can hit build Gradle. So you'll get a message saying that the install is successfully finished. Now to check if it's running or no, you can simply go to the logcat and search for iZooto. I'll show where exactly it comes up in the line of code. This ensures that the implementation is correct. As you can see, it is visible in the logcat. And that's it. That's how you can send push notifications using iZooto. If you need a tutorial on using any other push notification provider for your app, you can drop in a comment and we'll be happy to help.